Good morning from the polytunnel. I'm Jean and this is Forage&Faff. It's my excuse to be on our home farm a little bit and to get to play with flowers and pretend to call it business, really. So I've just spent this morning cutting some eucalyptus and I'm going to parcel it up now for someone coming to lift it for a hen party. So this is all eucalyptus we grow here in the polytunnel. So I've got some inside and then I've got some outside as well. We're in quite an exposed part of the world, so the inside stuff definitely does better and comes a lot quicker, and the polytunnel helps a lot with that. So the eucalyptus, actually, it all needs a really good whack down, but I'm going to wait to about the 17th of March, which is National Eucalyptus Day or something like that, but it's the day you chop your eucalyptus. So I've got some eucalyptus gunnies in here and they grow quite high, so they need to lop them down maybe about halfway, and then it bushes them up a lot more, and they also then don't grow through the plastic, so that would not be ideal. So a bit of like what Forage&Faff is, I suppose, would be good to explain. So I run floristry events and workshops here on the farm. We started restoring this polytunnel about 3 years ago. My uncle set it up years and years ago, but then it blew down in a storm and kind of sort of just returned to jungle, wilderness. So I have slowly been bringing it back to I don't think we're at its former glory yet. This time of year it specifically doesn't look powerful, but we're getting there. So it's mostly perennials and cut flowers that I can use for drying, to use in workshops. We have quite a short season up here because we're pretty high and pretty exposed. So it's not the best place for growing stuff that's super delicate or fancy, but if it's hardy and can be ignored for 2 or 3 weeks and still alive, that's my kind of plant. Everything we do is a bit agri-spec. Some might call it 3 others, some might call it rough and ready, but it's sort of the vibe we go for. Some people love it, other people won't, and that's fine. Right, so there we go. Nice big bunch of eucalyptus and a big bunch of dried lavender ready to go, and some lovely hen and her hen's chicks will enjoy it today in a big flower bar. Top of my priority list, which probably shouldn't be at all, is I'm going to redo my spring planters. This time of year everything looks a bit just depressing. Winter, I always think until Christmas there's still stuff and a bit of interest. Even if it's brown, it's still okay looking, and then after Christmas, like January, February, it just gets real looking. So I love flowers, but I'm all about longevity, value for money, and I love a fresh bunch of flowers, but if you're keeping them in the kitchen, I always find they just are done in about a week or a week and a half. So I love to do something that you can look at for a few weeks, even a couple of months, and it doesn't take any real effort to keep alive. So I love a spring planter this time of year. It just makes life a little bit less depressing and it gives you something to look at, but you maybe water it once a week and that's all you need to do. I've started off with a terracotta pot. Can't go wrong, I'm in my terracotta pot era. I'm going to pop some ivy. So I grabbed these, I grabbed all of this nearly over the pots I've gathered up over the years, and then I grabbed these, I grabbed all of these from Creative Gardens. So we'll pop in some ivy, it's always a good start. Now I got a couple of these, whenever you're done with your spring planter, or you're scunnered looking at it or wherever it might be, all of these then I plant out into the garden or into other pots around the yard. So we'll pop in a couple of bits of ivy. And I set it kind of at an angle and then it sits up and curls out over. And then I've got some spring bulbs. So we've got some daffodils, little tiny, what do you call them? Tete? I don't actually know how you pronounce that. Tete? I don't know. Tiny daffodils, whatever way you say that. Or we're going to pop those in. It's always nice when you're grabbing these to grab a few at different stages. So this, there's a wee bit root bound. Pot bound. Well, get those out. So these ones are kind of just ready to bloom, whereas I've got another one that's gonna take a few weeks maybe. So there's always something coming along. And then I got some tulips. Oh, I actually got these in Lidl. I love Lidl's flowers because they're all from Ireland. They're plants, and they're normally really well kept. They're normally well watered, and they're normally in pretty good condition. And they're normally a really good price. So I think these were like £1.19, £1.20, something like that. So I'll stick a wee tulip in here, this side, and then a wee daffodil behind him. And then for a wee bit of colour, will we go? Maybe we'll bring this daffodil around here and put this in here. Should have done that to start with. It's a very good idea before you start these things to lay all your pots out, and then you know where you're going. Learn from my mistakes. We'll stick him in here. Now, these wee guys are great, but once you see a dead head, chop it off, and then loads more blooms will come. They'll last much longer. If you keep the dead flowers on it any length of time, then it doesn't get a chance to spout out new ones. So we'll top up all the gaps with some compost. Right, now it looks a wee bit baldy, but in a week's time it'll fill out. These will start to bloom, the tulips will start growing up through. I might divide one of these wee white narcissus. I'm a flowery person, but I am terrible at pronunciation, so the wee white ones that are lovely looking, we'll divide them up a bit and pop a few in. You don't need fancy terracotta pots, by the way. Before Christmas I had done this in a casserole dish and then just set it in a nice basket on the kitchen table, and you never would have known, and the dish washed up fine. We're still making casseroles in it. So I'm going to split these, just really gently kind of coax them apart. Might as well get all that good stuff in there. Make sure you get plenty of roots, and then give it a wee wiggle. There we go. We'll pop a few of those in here, just at the edge. If it's a bit naked looking, or if you don't have ivy, which this is the first time actually I've put ivy in it, a really handy trick is moss. So if you've got a really mossy garden, count your blessings, because it's very handy stuff. So I'm going to go and hook some off one of the walls outside, and I'll be back. I'll go and get some moss, and then I'll stick that on the edge. Nothing like in the first video showing you the worst part of the place, but this is the midden. Welcome, you're very welcome to the midden. I spot a nice big bit of kind of greeny moss stuff, so we'll coax it off, try and get it in a piece, but it doesn't really matter. Even if it comes off in lots of little pieces, it still works, and you actually don't need as much as you would think. So you pop these wee bits of moss in round your bulbs. It also works really well, it keeps in the moisture a bit, helps them not dry out just as quickly, which is great if you're like me and you forget to water your plants. And you can see it actually goes quite a long way. You don't need nearly as much as you think. I'll pop some in here just because we've got it. Lovely, there we go. So this bit's a bit naked, but the tulips will come up through there in the next few weeks and fill that out. So give it a really good water when you do it. I'm going to do that now before I forget. And then you can fire anywhere. It'll do inside, it'll do outside. I think I might stick this in the kitchen table. We have a tiny kitchen and a stove, so it's very, very warm, and it sits in the kitchen table, but that means the tulips will come all the faster. So water it before I forget. Good drink. And I always water it. Like, I'll pull the moss back and water in between it, just so you know that it's getting right down into the roots and not just sitting in the moss, and then the moss will help keep the water in. Or fog, as some other people call it. Dad always calls it fog. So there we go. Right, one down. This one is one that I've had for like 6 weeks now. So these have just in the last few days gone totally limp, so I'm going to replace them and finish off some more pots. We'll do that now. okay. It's okay. It's not the phone. Already bathed a laptop this week, so you do not need to bath a phone. So I'm going to bring this moss that I had on before, so you can see it dries out a bit, but it still looks grand when it's in among. These ones I had probably in this tub about 6 weeks, so they've just in the last day or two kind of gone droopy, so I'm going to lift them out. Now I'll keep those and plant them in the garden. They might do, they might not, but sure, it was a cheap bunch of flowers to sit on the table at £2 for 6 weeks. And I did do some last year and popped them in among pots of like trees and things, and I see them sprouting up this year, so hopefully they'll do. They're kind of a nice little ray of sunshine and hope that spring's coming. So we'll pop some fresh ones in, and then we've got another tulip left. These little bulbs, you want to leave them sitting just proud of the compost. You don't want them buried down in, which is quite nice because then they look like something before they bloom. You've still got a little bit of interest in your pot. Right, and we'll pop this back in. Right, it's a wee bit bird's nesty, but once they start to grow up through it, it's full back. And some water. There you go. Right, so 3 nice planters ready for the house and garden. While I can't do much yet because it's still pretty cold, February is not the time to get carried away in the garden or with seeds because it's just a waste of your time. But this is a nice way to bring a little bit of colour and a little bit of spring joy into the home. Not the hands. Right, so there is one thing you can do this time of year in the garden, and I always forget. So this year I'm actually very proud to have remembered. I'm going to force my rhubarb. So I've got 3 or 4, maybe 4 actually crowns of rhubarb. I've split it each year. So I'm going to force 2 and leave the other 2, and then next year I'll force the other 2 and leave the 2 that I did this year, just to give them a chance to kind of recuperate. So rhubarb is one of those things that I love for the first month, and then I'm scunnered off by the time it gets to summer or summer's end. It's like scunnered looking at it. But last year I discovered pickled rhubarb, which sounds disgusting but is unreal, and on a pizza, that's where it's really at. So we'll go and cover our rhubarb up and force it. So this is the rhubarb. Now I always mulch them with last year's leaves, so it's almost too warm in here for it really. I'll probably shift them. I think I'll force this one, and there is one somewhere in here. But no, yeah, Jack's probably standing on it. There, it's maybe there. So I'll maybe leave it and do the 2 bigger ones that are coming on a bit quicker, and then probably once I've got the nice early rhubarb off these, then I'm gonna dig them up and put them outside, because they just grow into big giant stalks and leaves and things, but they're not actually the best for eating. So we'll do this for now, get the nice early stuff off it, and then stick them outside later in the spring, summer. So you can get fancy stuff, but everything here is a bit kind of upcycled, whatever's lying about, sort of scrapheap challenge vibes for gardening. So good old recycling bins that changed and are no longer used for recycling. Just make sure it's nice and tightly packed. So you just want to block out all the light. That's all we're doing, is blocking out all the light, and then it forces the rhubarb to grow quicker and earlier, and you get these really lovely tender pale pink stems, which are much more expensive to buy in the supermarket, but they taste great. So you can grow them yourself, you're on a winner. Oh yes, look, there's a wee shoot just starting, that wee guy there, just starting to come up through. Yeah, we'll just keep all that nice mulch in round, just to keep it really dark and nice and warm, and then cover it up with our trusty pot. Now actually I'm going to mark these so I remember, because this time next year I will never remember which ones I forced and which ones I didn't. This is obviously when I take the box off, so I remember. It's fairly obvious while the box is on which was being forced, but this is for future Jane to remember. Yeah, so, right. I think that'll do for today. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, all that nonsense, and see you in the next one for some more flower faffery.